An amazing day. Welcome back. I hope your Wednesday and your week are both off to an incredible start and you're having a beautiful day. We're waiting for those tubes to connect themselves, and it looks like they have warmed up, and that's tremendous news. So today we've got a beautiful live stream ahead. A bunch of stuff dropped. We're talking about the July 13th, J13th insurrection. So many insurrections, it's hard to keep track of. But today we're jumping into that. You'll see here that the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee from the United States Senate dropped a big one. And this 134-page document has a lot of details about just how bad the Secret Service was in Butler, Pennsylvania. And so you'll see, we're going to go through this, see as much as we can inside, but they've done a lot. There's a lot of work on this. They recreated a bunch of stuff. We've got aerial photographs. We've got counter sniper, team leader planning documents you can see are in there. So they're giving you some different coordinates from their line of sight. You see, we've got a bunch of analysis on how he got on the roof. And what's also curious is they show us some visuals. Let's see if we can pull those up right here about the view from inside the building, right? So that's where he was. And we'll get into it in the show. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a preview here, but from actually inside the building. All right, we'll find it later. So we've got a bunch to get to in this document. I'm excited to spend some time on it because it is historic and catastrophic that this even occurred. So we'll see what happened here, why it happened, see if we can get some details from this report. Obviously, it's a big one, so there should be some good stuff inside. Now, there was more here on the July 13th attack. Merrick Garland now is getting a letter from Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan wants to know about the rest of that letter. Remember that letter that we read from the second Trump assassin? I know it's hard to keep track of all of them, but there was a second Trump assassin, and he wrote the first page of the letter that we read. And so now we're getting a demand from Congress, the Judiciary Committee, from the government to see what else they have that they have not given over. We also have Josh Hawley, who is a senator from Missouri. He says there's another whistleblower, and the whistleblower is saying that the Secret Service is not being very honest. They are confirming that Trump is getting all the Secret Service protection in the world, the same as Joe Biden, the same as Kamala Harris. Turns out the whistleblower says that's not true. So we've got a clip from Hawley, and he'll walk us through exactly what's happening in this. He also had a conversation with the new acting director, Director Ronald Rowe, who is responding to the whistleblower allegations. And you may have seen this, but apparently a Secret Service agent is now under investigation for assaulting a Kamala Harris aide. So not only are the Secret Service responsible for almost getting Trump killed and shot in the head, but they're also now a part of the assault on certain campaign staff. So it's just wild what's happening over there. Now, under investigation, on leave. And so we'll see what's going on there. Now, then today, there was also a very good hearing that involved people that we heard from last week here on the channel. And so we want to give an ultra shout out to the defendwhistlblowers.com team. Let's see if we can pull them up here. I have this queued up with Thomas Massie, but we have, remember, Tristan Leavitt, who was on the show last week from Empower Oversight. He was here explaining that he was going to be testifying today in Congress, and so he was there. So shout out to Tristan Leavitt. And you know those guys are over at Empower Oversight, and they were here explaining what they're doing. But this is also Jason Foster, who was also on the show last week. So let's send some love. Defendwhistlblowers.com. You can follow them, Empower Oversight, on X and elsewhere, testifying on behalf of the corruption and on behalf of this gentleman, a special agent, Mr. Allen, who was there also communicating in the House of Representatives about what he has been through. And so we're going to talk a lot about this today. We'll listen to a lot of this because there was some good stuff in here, and I want to recap it. But there was a very good exchange with Massie, which is where we'll start, where he's basically questioning the pipe bomb evidence, because the pipe bomb evidence apparently doesn't exist in the video recordings. FBI got a letter from Representative Massie, as we'll see here, and Massie demanded answers about the pipe bomb video footage, and apparently it doesn't exist. So we'll go through that. We'll see what's inside. This is what the letter looks like. from Thomas Massie, and then we'll jump into your comments and see what you say about all of this and more. So it's going to be a beautiful stream. We're glad that you're here and with us on the day, because it's going to be a good one. But before we get into any of this, you know what we have to talk about today? Testosterone, baby. Because many people, especially guys, think that it's caused by aging or bad genetics, or maybe it's just a lack of exercise. But what if I told you that's not the case? In fact, the real culprit might be something that you're likely eating every day. And here's the shocking part. You've probably been told that it's healthy. Now, there's this one food that has been scientifically shown to devastate testosterone levels, and most men have no idea. It's not junk food. It's not sugar. It's something a little bit more unexpected. And just eating it a few times a week is enough to destroy your testosterone, drain your energy, crush your motivation. But here's the good news. Cutting this one thing out could completely change the way you feel. And our friends at V-Shred, linked down below, they've seen it firsthand with their clients. And guys who stopped eating this are building muscle, burning fat, and feeling more energized than ever. It's truly incredible how quickly things can change if you make this change. Now, V-Shred, the team behind this, has created this cutting edge video. And so if you click the link down below, it'll take you to this video and you can read exactly or watch exactly what's going on. It shows you what the testosterone killing food is, why removing it could be the key to unlocking your body's true potential. So go check it out. Learn what that food is. Go to SCULPTnation.com/Robert, link down in the description below. And it's a great video. I encourage you to check it out because the experts break it down over there. This is one of those that you're not going to want to miss. So check it out and let's get tested up, baby. All right, so check it out over on the link in the description below, and shout out to our friends at V-Shred. All right, so without any other further ado, my friends, let's get into the business on the day because we've got a big one that has dropped. The Trump assassination report is here from the United States Senate. This is from the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. It's a big one, 134 pages. And we're going to go through it, hit the highlights, see what's inside. But the table of contents reveals that they did a nice deep dive analysis on this. We've got planning failures that they're going to cover. Why wasn't the scene secured? Communications failures. Hopefully we learned why some of those text messages that were missing on January 6th, why that same problem was not rectified here, and why the radio communications from this event are also missing. How convenient. U.S. Secret Service counter snipers. Someone said, I got him. What the heck happened there? There were intelligence concerns, right? A Secret Service official was made aware that there were credible intelligence of threats. Counterman systems. There was a timeline of the events, and then there were a bunch of also additional inquiries that they're addressing. And we're going to go through this. We'll hit the introduction and more, but I want to show you what the latest is fresh out of the oven today because there are still some open issues, including this one from Jim Jordan. So as it relates to another assassination attempt, which was the second one, Jim Jordan submitted this. He said, okay, dear Attorney General Garland, this is the Judiciary Committee writing. He says the Committee on the Judiciary is attempting to conduct oversight over the political bias from your DOJ. Now, during your tenure, there have been a lot of problems. You're not releasing the details of the so-called manifestos from people who have committed crimes. But earlier this week, right, you released in a public court filing the manifesto from the Trump shooter. He called for a $150,000 bounty on President Trump, and you just publicized that for everybody to see. But you previously have stated that you don't release manifestos. Now, this decision seems to contravene the department's policy about public access to legacy tokens, aka manifestos, saying that it's going to contribute to further attacks. You said we can't release manifestos because it might cause more attacks. But you released the Trump one that was advertising a $150,000 bounty for the man by sparking incredibly intense interest and study. They say copycat offenders are going to do it. And they're like, oh crap, they caught us. It's like they posted it almost on Craigslist, except it was just a court docket. Now, the department's decision to broadcast the attempted assassin's bounty on Trump at the same time they're prosecuting Trump raises pretty serious concerns. And so can you please send us your policy memo on how you conduct these things? We want all documents that are relating to this assassin's manifesto and send those back over to us right now, because it seems like the DOJ is instigating more assassins as we're still trying to figure out what's happening with the prior assassins. So going back now to what happened in Butler and the major report that is now out from the Senate, you see they give us an introduction as follows. Now, we know most of this, but we are going to fast forward through this as quickly as we can. Now, on July 13th, we know crooks brought 50 rounds of ammo, bought it, brought it, and then set up to shoot. On July 30th, a few weeks later, after all this happened, okay, we've covered the situation. He flew a drone, used a rangefinder, brought explosive devices, planning, communicating this. It was a disaster. We've spent a lot of time on it. What happened afterwards and what caused it? Let's see. On July 30th, then after the incident, Rowe, acting director, testified in a joint hearing. He said, yeah, this was a failure on multiple levels. He also testified that he has since initiated several reforms and he's going to fix everything. He acknowledged the Secret Service had responsibility for this, and during a series of additional interviews, they identified other personnel responsible for planning, coordinating, securing the facility and the location, but they declined to acknowledge individual areas of responsibility that could have contributed to the planning and the shooting that occurred that day. And they've acknowledged ultimate responsibility, but in other words, they're not pinpointing who did it specifically. So yeah, the Secret Service is responsible. Okay, well, who at the Secret Service? Well, we're not going to tell you that. At the direction of Gary Peters and Rand Paul, shout out, and others, they conducted a bipartisan investigation here. And this interim report details the findings. The committee also finds, well, here, let's back up. The committee finds in total that the Secret Service failures in planning, communications, security, and allocation of resources were foreseeable, preventable, and directly related to the events resulting in the assassination attempt that day. Whoa! Foreseeable and preventable. Those are not good words in liability conversations. You should have seen that coming. You could have prevented it. You didn't. You're responsible for it. It was your entire job. The committee also finds that siloed communications and coordination problems between state, local, feds remain unaddressed and were a contributing factor to the failures on that day. Now, on September 15th, the suspect was taken into custody. Just recently, he was hiding a semi-automatic rifle in the golf club at Trump's golf course, 300 to 500 yards away from the president. Then on September 16th, the DOJ, FBI, and a bunch of others, they held a press conference on this second assassination attempt. On the 16th of this month, the suspect was charged with possession of a firearm, among other things. Now, according to the complaint, the suspect's mobile phone was in the vicinity of the area in the tree line for about 12 hours. FBI said it's investigating this as an assassination attempt, and he has been charged with assassination now, or attempted assassination now. Now, the committee has requested briefings from the Secret Service and the FBI, and we're going to continue to do that. And so here's what we've done to date. A bunch of stuff. So on July 15th, we asked for a briefing within 15 days. Members Paul and Johnson sent 10 letters to everybody, ATF, DHS, PSP, Pennsylvania Police, and many others, the Clairton Sportsman's Club, and a bunch of things. On July 25th, Acting Director Rowe and the FBI did have a closed-door unclassified briefing for the Judiciary Committee. And then they also wrote Mayorkas and Christopher Wray with the FBI. Now, as part of its bipartisan investigation, the committee also traveled to Butler, Pennsylvania. We spoke with law enforcement officials, local snipers. We examined the interior of the building. We interviewed 4 local law enforcement people, 3 local snipers, 1 quick response force operator, and more. The committee also examined the operational plans from ESU, Beaver County, Butler County, reviewed local radio communications, and reviewed body-worn camera footage from the local cops. The committee also reviewed transcripts and audio recordings of the local cops as well. Then the committee began a series of transcribed interviews with the Secret Service personnel. Now, to date, the committee has examined over 2,800 pages of documents provided to the Secret Service and conducted 12 interviews of personnel responsible for the planning. As discussed at the conclusion of this, key requests to FBI, DHS, ATF, and Secret Service remain outstanding. They're not giving the documents up. The majority of documents provided by the Secret Service and Homeland are also heavily redacted. This has unnecessarily hindered the committee's ability to carry out its constitutional authority to investigate and acquire information necessary to identify the needed reforms. These overly burdensome redactions, including of communications related to the same individuals, only delay and impede our work. Now, in addition Several Secret Service individuals responsible provided contradictory or incomplete information. You're kidding. So they're not giving the records up. And when they do give the records up, everybody's lines are crossed. Nobody has their story straight. Interesting. In a criminal prosecution, you'd say somebody's lying, right? Okay, well, let's figure this out. Which one's right? Who was responsible for this? Are they your drugs or his? They're his. No, I didn't do it. No, it was his thing. No, I didn't do it. So, okay, well, what happened here? Dig into it. This interim report highlights the preliminary findings based on the committee's transcribed interviews. They do not consider the extent how other agencies were involved and more. So let's go through some of the highlights. Here are the key failures. 1, the Secret Service failed to clearly define responsibilities for planning and security. The actual people responsible for planning the rally denied that they were responsible for the security failures. It's like children there. Hey, it's your job to make sure that roof is covered. Nuh-uh, it's someone else's. Secret Service advance agents told the committee that planning and security decisions were made jointly. No, we did that together. We did that as a unit. So you can't prosecute any of us individually. The Secret Service also failed to ensure the building was actually covered on the roof that day. The Secret Service identified the building as a concern, so they knew it was a problem due to a line of sight from the roof. So, oh yeah, it's a problem. Should we fix it? Nah. They knew that local snipers planned to set up inside the building, and the Secret Service did not express any objections or concerns about that. So they weren't supposed to be on the roof. Secret Service personnel, also including the Secret Service counter sniper team, did not enter the AGR building or even go on the roof prior to the shooting. So didn't even look at the facility to see if it was safe or sufficient. That's fine over there. They've got it. One counter sniper team from the Secret Service, whose responsibility included scanning around the area, had an obstructed view of the roof. Okay, so the other guy who's like, that's his building, he can't even see it. They also failed to coordinate with local law enforcement. Secret Service didn't give anybody instructions for actually covering the building. They didn't adequately consider the local cops' plans. They just said, you do this or you do that, and we just presume you do it. They didn't, I guess, follow up. Communications at the rally were also siloed, and the Secret Service did not ensure it could even share information in real time. That's why, when the cops said, there's a shooter on the roof, Secret Service, they were still playing Sudoku on their phones. So the Secret Service then failed to provide resources that could have enhanced security. No countermand systems. A surveillance unit could have helped patrol the perimeter, but they didn't. The Secret Service also failed to communicate information about the suspicious person to the key personnel. Remember, they saw him, they took photos of him. At 5:45 in the afternoon, Secret Service personnel were actually notified that local law enforcement saw a suspicious person with a rangefinder at 5:45, many minutes before the shooting. By 5:52, at least 8 U.S. Secret Service personnel had been informed. Now they all know. Now, 2 minutes before the shots were fired, the U.S. Secret Service security room located on the rally grounds, 2 minutes before the shots were fired, was told that there was an individual on the roof of the building. Insane. And they just let Trump stand there. Oh, America. And they're like, well, 2 minutes. You better go check it out. Shortly before shots were fired, a U.S. Secret Service counter sniper observed local officers running towards the building with guns drawn. Okay, so now this other counter sniper has noticed local cops think there is a big problem up there. It's not a local cop up there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be running at him with their guns. And they did nothing at every one of these instances. Every one of these is a point where Trump could have been removed from the stage, paused. Suspicious person? Nah, Trump's fine. 2 minutes later, someone's on the roof. Secret Service knows. No problem. Third time, local cops running over there. The counter sniper probably should have been shooting at that person at that moment. Okay, the golf club shooting, they did not wait for the Ryan Ruth, to start firing shots downrange at the golf course before they started shooting at him. Same thing could have happened here. Who the hell is that? Why is there a rifle pointed at the president? Start firing. But they waited. So here are some of the more detailed findings. They say Secret Service personnel knew about this suspicious person for approximately 27 minutes before the shooting ever took place. Almost 30. Just think about how much time that is. Okay, this show, as of this moment, has been going for 20 minutes. I know it feels like just, 2 minutes because we're having so much fun, but we're not even there. At 27 minutes. That's another. Think of all this time that's just elapsing. It's insane. A dude with a rangefinder who shouldn't have a rangefinder at a rally is just roaming around, and the security, the world's most prestigious security apparatus in the world, theoretically, doesn't think that's suspicious. The report of a suspicious person with a rangefinder ended up with Secret Service at 5:44, and with the counter sniper 5:45. They ended up losing the dude. They couldn't locate the individual. And they say the Secret Service didn't even get this information from the local cops. Local cops lost track of this individual until after the shots were fired. So then everybody loses the guy. The most suspicious guy there, they lose. The Secret Service was notified about an individual on the roof 2 minutes before Crooks fired from the roof. And that is that most damning 2 minutes. 3 minutes before the shots were fired, a local law enforcement officer sent out a radio alert that there was an individual on the roof. This information was passed to the Secret Service security room 2 minutes before the shots were fired. Now, 22 seconds before Crooks fired, a local officer sent out a radio alert that the individual on the roof was armed, and that was not relayed to key Secret Service personnel that the committee spoke with. Does he have a gun, or what's he up there with? A telescope? Shortly before the shots were fired, counter snipers saw local law enforcement running towards the building with their guns drawn, but he did not alert Trump's detail to remove him from the stage. The counter sniper told the committee when they talked to this person that while seeing officers with their guns drawn, they said, well, why didn't you do anything when you saw them running over there with guns? He said, well, I did think that it was elevated, the threat level. The thought to notify someone to get Trump off the stage did not cross his mind. It's just like, okay, what are you there for then? Counter snipers, including the one who shot and killed Crooks, were sent to the rally in response to, quote, credible intelligence of a threat, which is a weird coincidence. What is that credible intelligence, right? Was it the Iranians? Or was this somebody that Crooks was communicating with in his foreign apps? The July 13th rally was the first time that a counter sniper team was assigned to a protectee other than the president or VP. Or a presidential candidate who had been formally nominated by his or her party. And so remember that first shooting, Trump had not been nominated yet. He showed up to the RNC with the bandage on. Secret Service provided the counter snipers because there was credible intelligence of a threat. Well, there was a threat, but was it the Iranians or was it Matthew Crooks? However, the FBI said that Crooks was not known to the FBI prior to the assassination attempt. According to the Assistant Director of Protective Operations, a decision to assign the counter snipers to Trump's event occurred sometime the first week of July. Of the Secret Service personnel interviewed, nearly all, including this person and this person, said they were unaware of any credible intelligence of a threat. Unaware. So the special agent in charge in Pittsburgh had no idea. And the intelligence advance agent had no idea. So you see a major disconnect here. So the assistant director of protective operations, she assigns counter snipers. So somebody high up goes to this person, says assign them, but then they get assigned. The memo never goes down to the actual people who are in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania. And the intelligence advance agent didn't know either. It's wild. Now, the Secret Service advance agents denied individual responsibility for this. That's not my fault. They deflected blame and could not identify who had the final decision authority for the rally. And our government's going to give them more money and more power. And everybody's pointing their fingers at everybody. How can you run an organization like that? Is that a thing? Where like bad things happen and nobody's responsible? Is it only in government? I think it's pretty much only in government. And like accidents. But this was not an accident. Secret Service planning and execution of security measures for the July 13th rally appears to have lacked a clear chain of command, because that's much better that way. Nobody's responsible if nobody's responsible. Advance agents told the committee that planning and security decisions were collaborative. So they got together like a Ouija board and they just made the decisions together. Oh, this is beautiful. Advance agents interviewed by the committee could not identify who is responsible for even determining the security perimeter for the July 13th rally. Could you imagine if this was your place of business? It's insane. No one did anything, apparently, and stuff just happened. Local law enforcement raised concern about the security coverage of the AGR building. A member of local cops told the Secret Service that we don't have the manpower to handle that building. The people we interviewed told the committee in conflicting accounts that state and local law enforcement were responsible for the building because it was in the outer perimeter. Prior to the rally, the counter-sniper team leader did not go into the building. None of the advanced agents shared planning documents with local cops, so the local cops had no idea what was going on, and the Secret Service wasn't communicating with them. The advanced personnel from the Secret Service identified multiple line-of-sight concerns there, and they proposed positioning large trucks or heavy equipment in the area between the stage to mitigate these line-of-sight concerns. They also told the committee they relied on multiple measures, including counter-sniper teams and bleachers to mitigate lines of sight behind Trump. They ultimately did not use the trucks or heavy equipment, though. The counter-sniper team, in the Hercules II position, told the committee that he believed the mitigations were sufficient because they thought they had a good security plan. Now, there were two separate communication centers at the rally, one run by the local cops and one run by the Secret Service. And we were asking ourselves if they were in the same room, right? Because they have interoperability problems. Let's see what this says. The posts were anywhere from 120 to 300 yards apart from each other, and the primary means of communication between the posts was cell phone. So they're not in the same room. There was an interoperability thing. They operate on separate radio channels, and all of the local channels were recorded on July 13th, but the Secret Service radio transmissions were not recorded. Isn't that so fun? The Secret Service radio transmissions were not recorded. The local cops can figure out how to press the record button and install that technology, but not the Secret Service. They probably need another $1 billion, in order to figure that out. So we can recreate what happened with the local cops, but just like the Secret Service deleted all those January 6th text messages, we also have no radio transmissions at all. So strange how that always happens, isn't it? More missing evidence. Crooks was in the counter-sniper's sights for mere seconds before he took him out. The Secret Service partner of the counter-sniper, says, yeah, it was seconds. He says he got identified and took him out. Snipers confirmed the committee that they did not require permission before they fired, right? So they saw him popping off and then they fired. Now, the advanced agents from the Secret Service requested additional resources that would be helpful, but those assets were denied. The operator told the committee he requested additional support days before the rally, but those requests were denied at times without explanation, which is strange if they knew that there was credible intelligence of an attack. So why were those requests denied when a local U.S. CUAS operator, probably drone guy, denied? Why? The lead advance agent told the committee that Trump's detail requested counter-assault team liaisons to help coordinate tactical assets, but Secret Service denied this request. Who? Probably a committee again? The secret site agent and the counterpart told the committee that a counter-surveillance unit would have been helpful, but this asset is typically not provided for former presidents. Now, the CUAS system experienced technical problems. The drone from the Secret Service was inoperable until 4:33 after Crooks flew his drone near the rally site. So the CUAS, that is, let's make sure we know what that is, an anti-drone system. Layered solution to countering unmanned aerial systems. So it's not flying their own drone, but it's countering the drone. So the counter drone system, counter UAS, is inoperable until 4:33. That they stand it up, it secures the air after Crooks is zipping all over the place. Oh, perfect. No one's on that building. With no backup systems, the Secret Service agent responsible for the capabilities of the CUAS system called the 188 number, 1-800. I can't get this. Is the light supposed to be blue or red? I can't tell. It's flashing at me now. Well, just press the two buttons on the side and hold it. It's going to reboot itself. So she calls to start troubleshooting with the company. I can't get this thing working. I can't tell it's up in the sky, which took several hours now. The agent only had 3 months of experience working with the equipment, didn't even know how to use it. They're like, yeah, just give it to the new guy. All right, just have him go handle this. Okay, if you figure it's easy, just turn the switch on. Yeah, Trump will be totally safe. When did you graduate from the academy? Oh, 2 weeks ago. Perfect. Come on out. So several U.S. Secret Service officials reported experiencing technical problems with their radios at the rally. Oh, and told the committee that those problems are common for the Secret Service. So a counter sniper was offered a local radio, but he didn't even have time to go pick it up because he was trying to fix his own crap U.S. Secret Service radio. This thing never works. I think it's perfect. Yeah, what do you need to talk about at the Trump rally? Well, an assassin? Well, just call him on your cell phone. Send him a text. He'll get the message. In addition, at the airport, the Secret Service special agent in charge of the Pittsburgh field gave the lead advance agent his radio because that other person's radio was not working. No one's radios are working. It's like Epstein's security camera, how that one just failed too. Isn't it weird how technology just glitches at the strangest times? As a result, the special agent in charge did not have a working radio on him the entire time at the rally. While he did not hold a post or sector and was not part of any protective formation, he did claim that he was there to act as more in a liaison capacity, but he didn't even have any means to communicate with the Secret Service. So you can't really do any liaisoning when you can't talk. So here are the recommendations. They say Congress should require the Secret Service to identify any defined roles and responsibilities for these people. Who did it specifically? You can't just say it's your whole committee. The policies and protocols should also require more communication and enhanced responsibility and blah, blah, blah. Now, all of this, I think, is honestly, it's whatever. They're going to give the Secret Service more money and more responsibilities because that's how our useless, broken government works. The real remedy here would be for Congress, both sides, to say, until you give us this, okay, whatever this requirement is, or pass a law or something like that, which will never happen, defund them completely and delegate over to private security the overlap for whatever they can't handle. Defund them. That's the power of the purse of Congress. If they're going to give you conflicting answers and not answer any identified defined roles, we all did it together. Okay, then you're all fired. You all get no more money from Congress until you cooperate and give them what they're asking for so they can conduct proper oversight of this broken agency that can't even fix their friggin' radios for $3 billion a year. But they're going to get more money because that's just how it goes. So let's fast forward through some of this. We've still got 115 pages of juicy business in here. And so here are the agents that were assigned. So they're not going to give us their names, but we've got the titles of the people that were there. 18 posts. There were jump teams that were all assigned there. Here is a brief diagram of the site at the July 13th rally. Obviously, we spent a lot of time dissecting this, but the shooter, this is the AGR building here. They're saying Trump was here on the stage. The two counter snipers, one was here, one was here. We saw them on the roofs. There were local, looks like PD set up at all these stars in various locations. And so this looks like an actual document from the Secret Service. This is what they were drafting and distributing to people. Public parking over here, mass decon over here, fires here, local tech over here and here. We got medical here, set up here, and more. Now, there were planning failures. Throughout the week of July 8th, the Secret Service personnel met with a bunch of people. There were only 2 official planned meetings, and so very light. The advanced teams did not document responsibility for securing the outer perimeter. Who's going to be handling what? They also did not share any documents with local law enforcement as well. The responsibilities were unclear. Secret Service shows up. They're not meeting with anybody, not attending the briefings. And even the planning agents could not answer questions about who specifically, what person was responsible for determining the perimeter. Who set that up? Who approved the designation of the perimeter? For example, when asked who was in charge of determining the perimeter at the Butler Farm Show site, the lead advance agent, site agent, and site counterpart Each individually explained that it was a joint effort based on available assets. What kind of stupid statement is this? Just apply this to your own practice, your own business, whatever this is. It'd be like me filing a motion and not signing my name to it as a lawyer and just saying this came from the firm. Well, which one of you is responsible for this stupid opinion and this illegal opinion or whatever? Not that I would ever do such a thing in my motion or our law firm's motion, but it is lunacy. The judge would be like, no, who specifically? Put your name on the filing. And if a lawyer ever tries to do this, okay, if a lawyer and you're ever hauled into court, and I've seen it a lot, lawyers blame their legal assistants. Your Honor, I didn't know that was included in the motion. I thought I deleted that out of there. This was a second. Well, I don't care what your legal assistant did or what your intern did or what some other lawyer from your firm did. Your name is on the motion. So you submitted it, you own it. That's how you create ownership over the document. And same thing in construction. When I was doing swimming pools many, many years ago, you have the same pattern, right? You got to sign off on the plans. Somebody's signing off on the plans before you start digging into the ground. Sign off 50 times so that you don't put something in the wrong location. Who is signing off? Chain of custody. When you're delivering evidence from one place to another, one person brings it, signs off on the chart. I'm giving this to you. I'm receiving this. Everybody signs off on stuff. The Secret Service is the only boneheaded agency that can't figure out how to attribute responsibility. Gosh, the Secret Service agent explained to the committee that it was a consensus decision. It's so pathetic. They said, we work together as a team and we submit the required information to the lead advance agent. Okay, so then that person should be responsible, who then sends it to OPO and to headquarters. The lead advance agent, I mean, this is like non-functional operations. The Secret Service is never going to recover. The lead advance agent told the committee that they put together a draft that is then raised to the special agent in charge and then it comes back down. So nobody did anything. The special agent in charge in Pittsburgh, he told the committee. So they said, well, it goes up to him and he's the final signature. So then they go to that guy, the special agent in charge. And he says, what? I'm not responsible for any of this crap. I don't approve perimeter decisions. I'm not even present or even expected to be present for the walkthrough of the site. I'm not there at all. The special agent in charge said that the whole process goes through the Trump detail and the OPO, not my office. But the Secret Service assistant director of the OPO told the committee that in addition, they are responsible for the security plan. But then they told us that if they would have known that, then I'd address them. But otherwise, no, it's the detail supervisors who are responsible. It's not me. It's like almost like it's a comedy routine. This is a federal government that is supposed to protect the most. I have difficulty believing that anybody who is under their protection is safe. If this is how they operate their office, we need Elon to come clean house big time. Secret Service failed to sufficiently coordinate. We're familiar with this. On July 5th, many people planned to be there. Secret Service did not share their materials, their expectations. Their meetings were disorganized. They lacked direction because no one's in charge. They're like, do you want to start the meeting? I don't know. I think you should. Well, I think you should. Well, why don't we vote together on who should start the meeting? Well, I don't really feel like we should do that because that's going to single somebody out. So I think we'll just do the meeting together as a group. Should we start now? A lieutenant involved in the July 8th meeting noted the Secret Service did not have answers to certain questions, like where even the stage would be. A commander involved in advanced planning described it as incredibly disorganized, no coordination, really just people milling about. Okay, I felt like there was no plan. This is what leads me to believe that it is intentionally incompetent. It's willful incompetence to cause the thing to happen. How can you operate so haphazardly when literally lives are on the line? You would not tolerate this from any other profession. Lawyers, anybody, construction, when I was doing that, anything. You wouldn't let yourself operate this way. But there's a whole agency that's responsible for protecting one of the most important men in the whole world. They're operating this way. Some Secret Service leads participated in briefings by telephone or not at all, while some key U.S. Secret Service personnel did not request state and local operational plans. The site agent was provided a copy of an operational plan, but the Pittsburgh field office did not receive the plan. On July 8th, they held a police meeting During the meeting, the Secret Service explained what assets they wanted each agency to provide, but they did not discuss the perimeter at the meeting. On Tuesday, they also were looking at this through Google Earth, and one lieutenant said, well, we just started planning out the map. We just drawing up a map. And so they started working on it. And here's what the map looked like. Here's the initial map from the July 9th meeting. You can see they're just sketching it out like on a notepad. The Secret Service did not adequately cover the building. They say in their manual that the site agent and the lead advance agent should all be involved in this. A Butler police officer told the committee that during a July 11th police walk, just days before the shooting, he introduced himself to the site agent. And he explained that he did not have the manpower to lock down this area. We can't handle this. You need to handle it. And they're still hashing out. They said the AGR building was not part of our site. It was not part of our perimeter, the site agent told the committee. When we say we identify buildings, that's more local law enforcement responsibilities. So the Secret Service say it's not our building. The cops say it's not our building. The committee has interviewed 2 Secret Service counter snipers and has requested interviews for the other 2 snipers that are still pending. Now, the U.S. Secret Service counter sniper team leader identified the AGR roof as a vulnerability, but did not ensure local snipers could mitigate it. In interviews with the committee, the team leader stated that part of the job of the advance team was to mitigate vulnerabilities. The image below shows the positions of the counter sniper Hercules 1 and Hercules 2 during the rally, as well as the likely path that Crooks got to get on the roof. So Hercules 1, Hercules 2. This was the counter sniper that we see apparently was blocked by this tree. And I think we saw that video footage of him lifting his head up and aiming down towards Crooks, who was there C. So then they say, yeah, okay, so remember one of the snipers left one of these buildings, probably walking out here. Crooks was sitting over here. And he actually texted them back before Crooks made his way up, climbed up on the AC unit, just walked over here, had perfect drone footage, set up, and took a shot. Saying that the U.S. counter sniper team created a planning document and they started to build out their defense. Now, one of the counter snipers, this looks like this was a team leader planning document. So he is on some roof somewhere, and now they're using this to identify coordinates. He said, I looked over at the AGR building, but I didn't really make mental note of it, says a counter sniper team leader. Of, hey, this building is actually being blocked, right? So if we're looking here, this looks like this is Hercules 1. And you can see the tree line is right there. See, that tree is blocking right where Crooks essentially was. So if this is Hercules 1 or 2, that tree is blocking the building. So this is what they're illustrating. It wasn't until later I was actually doing the grids and doing a 360 that I went, I don't know if you can see that AGR building from Hercules 2. So I made a note of it at the time. But Hercules 1, you had a clear line of sight, so I was okay with it. Okay, so I had those reversed. But yeah, Hercules 2 had a bad line of sight. Hercules 1, though, could see it. So they let it slide. So as this continues, when the committee asked the counter sniper team if he ever notified the Hercules 2 counter sniper about the obstruction, he said, I did not mention that to them. Honestly, I just didn't think about it. This is one of many threat areas that is looked at. I wouldn't have mentioned it that, hey, we can actually see the buildings. When we're working together, we have full coverage, even though I don't have it individually. Local snipers also explained to the committee they understood their primary areas of responsibility to be the crowd. So they're not even looking at the buildings. The local snipers also explained that they were positioned behind windows and behind their weapons, which were 6 to 7 feet away from the windows. Now let's look at some of these images, hopefully. So here's the sector map of the rally site. Sector 6 is here, 2 is here, 1, 4, 3, 7, it looks like, in 5. Now, according to local snipers, the snipers in the AGR building were responsible for Sector 2. So in the AGR building, which is this building up here, they're responsible for Sector 2. Okay, so here are the two Hercules. 1 is here, Hercules 2 is here. Trump is speaking here. AGR building is this direction. They should be covering this. The snipers in the building are covering Zone 2. Now, no Secret Service personnel involved with planning interviewed questioned their decisions about this. The committee staff visited the rally site, toured the building, and examined the rooms and views where each local sniper was posted. During a tour, the committee took photographs, and this is the approximate position of the local snipers in the building. As shown in the photographs, the local snipers had a very limited view of the AGR roof based on their positions on July 13th, and you can see that right here. And this is why it was so outrageous to hear Ronald Rowe come out and blame the local cops. Why didn't they just look left? Because that's not what they were looking at, right? First of all, this window is closed too. And if their guns are not poking out the window, then they're not going to be sticking their head out looking left. So they have no field of, range of vision there. From this position, the local sniper would not have even been able to see Crooks during his transit on the roof because he came back around the other side. Although local snipers would not have been able to see Crooks from their positions, they had access to a break room on the same floor. That break room contained a south-facing window and was closest to the location which Crooks fired. Now, this is another photograph looking towards the rally site. So from this window, is that where Crooks was? Right? That looks pretty close to where Crooks was. Maybe he's more over here because that's Hercules 2 right there. And that's Hercules 1 back there. And Trump is speaking right about here. So that's pretty close. Now, the roof is visible in the foreground. However, this view does not show the actual spot either, which was on the eastern side of that roof, so much further this direction. A local sniper position in this location would not have been able to cover that either. And so based on our tour of the building, it was possible for a local sniper in the break room to position themselves so that they could see Crooks while remaining concealed in the building, right? So they could have had that angle in the building. And then that's the tree that was blocking Crooks, and so they could have nailed him from there. In order to obtain a visual spot, a sniper would have had to go to the break room, press up against the window, look eastward. The photograph below was taken by the committee staff and shows the view of what Crooks would have. I mean, that's a ridiculous position to be in. Unless you're trying to snipe somebody in Call of Duty or something, and you know that's the spot that somebody's going to come up on, right? But you don't. You want a much broader range, and you're expecting someone else to have that covered from a higher vantage point. A sniper who assumed this position would have obstructed their view of their primary responsibility area, which was the crowd in Sector 2. Now, as the timeline says, a local sniper was the first to spot a suspicious person, warned a bunch of people. Here's the view from the AGR second floor, and that's approximately where Crooks was. His body was angled on that side. We thought maybe he climbed up right here, but apparently not, right? He came back around this other side. In regard to this image, this is what Director Rowe came out and shared in his disgusting smear of the local cops. He says, this is the view from the second floor. This point of view is the point of view where the counter sniper team was posted, so the gold arrow indicates where they're shooting. He says, looking left, why was the assailant not seen, says Rowe. When we were told that building was going to be covered, that had been a face-to-face that afternoon that our team leads met. This was the view. But local law enforcement said that no, that Rowe does not align with our view. When asked about the picture presented by Rowe, one local law enforcement sniper stationed in the building told the committee, I'm not exactly sure where those pictures are from, but like if they were taken from where I was, they would have been literally had to been hanging out the window. Now, there were multiple line of sight concerns that were not mitigated as well. The advance agent told the committee that she discussed these concerns, including the day before the rally, but that the site had still not been built out by the time I left. So another person's raising a red flag. There were additional resource requests. They wanted 10 to 15 additional troopers, but the PSP ultimately sent a total of 30 troopers. Butler sent in another 20 to 25. The requested assets for the Trump detail were not approved. This included counter-drone and drone resources, as discussed below, and a counter-assault team, all denied, which is bizarre if they had noticed that there was a heightened threat level against Trump. Trump's Secret Service detail requested a counter-assault team. They didn't get that. While former President Trump did not have a CSU for the outdoor rally, the First Lady did have a CSU. Trump was going to have 15,000 people there. Jill was going to have 410 people, but she regularly gets CSU. And you can see how the resources are being spread around. There were also errors in the security planning documents. At least 2 documents that the officials created contained errors about the positions of the local counter snipers. One document contained inaccurate information about the positions of the snipers. Some should have been at elevated 4 o'clock and some should have been at 8 o'clock on the barn roof. They can't even get their paperwork right. There were communication failures. Multiple U.S. Secret Service officials, including Rowe, have acknowledged these failures. A lot of things we could have done better, they said. A lot of people pointing fingers. Well, I didn't conduct this advance, and these are excerpts from interviews. Key Secret Service personnel were never informed that local law enforcement was searching for a suspicious person. After a local sniper first observed Crooks, they notified everybody. As detailed, by 5:52, at least 8 U.S. Secret Service personnel knew about him. The PSP sergeant in the Secret Service room notified the security room agent verbally at 5:44. They shared photos of Crooks with the counter-drone person. They passed the photos to other people, and everyone knew. Now, despite the fact that multiple people knew about this guy, some Secret Service personnel were actively engaged in the search, so we know that they knew. Others, including the lead advance agent and site agent, did not receive any of this information until after the shots were fired. The Secret Service officials expected the security room would relay relevant information, but they didn't. He was not even aware of what the security room did with this information. So they're just all flying blind. There was also siloed communications, as we've covered. They did not communicate on the same radio channels. And based on its interviews, the committee could not confirm anyone in the Secret Service had a local radio, nor any local law enforcement had a Secret Service radio. So no Secret Service people are going to be on their recordings talking, evidently. They said it's common practice to exchange radios, but it's not required. So they were communicating via cell phone. Now, several law enforcement operated separate communication centers as well. And let's see what else we've got. You see, here is a diagram of how the communication worked. So there was a local command post, Butler ESU. They all have their radio comm system. Snipers are on there, patrols on there, counter assaults on there. Secret Service have their own radio network over here. Donald Trump detail, post standers, and more. And then there's a PSP sergeant who's linked with the Secret Service. And so they communicate by cell phone, apparently. So these guys send a text message. Hey, there's a shooter over there. And at one point, we thought that they might be in the same room, right? So that they can just verbally communicate. But apparently they're using a cell phone. They're a few hundred yards away. They communicated by cell phone, as we can see. There's a group text chain here. You see it would go local snipers. They would text local snipers in Grandstand. Then they would text the Secret Service. And then the Secret Service would, I guess, send an email that looks like, send their email. And then carrier pigeons would fly back over. So they'd release a carrier pigeon back over here and they'd say, who? And then they'd send a fax machine over here back to this local Secret Service. And then they'd run out of toner. And then they'd say, pull it out and shake it. And they pull it, then they print it. And then they'd give it to a marathon runner. Okay, you get it. As described in more detail, the local sniper who first observed Crook with a rangefinder sent a text message, and then it went from there. Radio problems added to the communication challenges because our own government can't even get working radios. The special agent in charge didn't even have a working radio the entire time. No, he's not even there. No responsibilities were defined for the Secret Service. Radio logs that were obtained by the committee showed that local snipers did not receive any notification about an individual on the roof before Crooks fired. And the sniper that was posted on the AGR building told the committee that neither he nor his partner were even aware anyone was on the roof before shots were fired. So it was just nobody knew anything. Here's another graphic. So you can see there was also Butler ESU located there. As depicted above, Hercules 1 was on the rooftop. Hercules 2 was on the northern barn. And then they got text messages. 2 pictures of crooks. We're familiar with how all that went down. I think they have photographs of the pictures. Oh, here's an email. We haven't seen this before. Here's a Secret Service email notifying counter snipers of an individual near the AGR building. Here, this is from redacted to redacted. Local CS Bolo, Saturday, July 13th, 5:52 p.m. Here, this is an email. United States Secret Service Special Operations Team, Counter Sniper Team, says, from a local police near the AGR glass building, if spotted, please notify PI at Go Direct with Security Room. Here's the quote. Kid learning around building we are in, AGR, I believe it is. I did see him with a rangefinder towards the stage, FYI. If you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out. I lost sight of him. Also, a bike with backpack sitting next to it in rear of building that was not seen earlier. So that email had that image attached. Now, the committee said that this bolo, be on the lookout for, was worded vaguely. I mean, we don't know what that means. So we continued to search and observe the site. We had no idea what he was talking about. They searched for several minutes. They didn't do anything about it. So local law enforcement was also running towards the building with their guns drawn, but they didn't radio the other people to remove Trump. It's fine. They're probably going to handle it. So here's a question. Okay, Mr. Counter Sniper leader. So why not in that moment then send a signal or a radio call saying, do not let the protectee on the stage. Or if the protectee was already on the stage, why didn't you send a message saying, take him off? Secret Service team lead. At that time, we didn't know what we were working with. Obviously, police are running toward a situation. That could be anything from a medical situation to potentially a man with a gun or some sort of violent situation. And we didn't know what we were having. And I didn't have enough to go over the radio with the same exact communication of, the police are working on a situation at 3 o'clock. We know they're working. What are they working on? We don't know. And so we're trying not to clog the radio. Okay, understood. Now you mentioned you saw someone with their gun drawn. Well, and that seems like an extremely serious situation, more than just looking for a suspicious person or like a medical issue. Is that right? Yes. So it seems like a major elevation of a threat level. Is that correct? Well, that's why we placed our rifles in the tripods and started searching through the rifle scopes themselves. But beyond that, is that not enough to say we have something imminent happening here? If their guns are drawn and we need to ensure the safety of the protectee, shouldn't you? Well, potentially. It definitely is elevated. We're trying to figure out what's happening. It's happening very quickly. It's a very dynamic situation, but did the thought even cross your mind that you should inform someone to keep the protectee from going on stage? Or if he was already on stage, to take him back? Did that even cross your mind? The thought did not cross my mind. It was more, find out what's happening, figure out what's happening. Can we help? Can we take action? Said that if he went on to remove a protectee, there will be no question asked, and that'll happen. If he says, right, he says, well, what happens if you did go on the radio? If you said, remove him immediately, would they remove him? They said, absolutely, no questions asked, he'll be removed. And so based on the estimated likely route that crooks took across the roof of the building, when crooks got up there at 6:05, the Secret Service counter snipers in Hercules 1 position could have had direct line of sight to him for at least part of his movements across the roofs. So Hercules 1 missed it. The photograph below was taken by the committee staff from an AGR roof looking southward towards Hercules 1 position on the southern barn behind the stage, the red barn in the photo. The AGR property is a complex of buildings with a series of connected roofs. Crooks fired from the AGR roof peak closest to the stage, and there are 2 additional roof peaks. Photograph was taken from the third. Here you can see Hercules 1 had a direct line of sight to portions of these roofs, right? And you can see that. So this is apparently where crooks climbed up back over here on the AC, came around. He's marching, lays down right about here. And then this guy should have been able to see him as he's aiming down at Trump. When shown the photograph of these roofs, the counter sniper team leader who was in the Hercules 1 position, so this guy who's posted up right here, acknowledged that with the view he had of the building, if someone were standing on those 3 roofs and walking across them, he says, yeah, I could have been able to see them. From our position, you should have line of sight, yes. However, Hercules 2 never saw crooks on the roof, and Hercules 2 was like more over here. Now, although the FBI confirmed the subject's movements across multiple building roofs between 605 and 608, we can't know exactly that Hercules 1 would have spotted him if they were facing that direction at the time. Then Crooks was in his sights for just mere seconds. Lines up, shoots. That was the end of that. There were intelligence concerns. The July 13th rally was the first time that the Secret Service sent counter snipers. According to the director of the OPO, prior to July 5th, the then Deputy Assistant Director and the Special Agent in charge of Special Operations agreed that the Secret Service headquarters would send counter snipers based on the size and the scale of the events. Now, we've not been provided any details beyond that. And only 2 people were made aware of this credible intelligence threat. It appears that the addition of the counter snipers to the detail were the result of, quote, credible intelligence. From what? However, only 2 of the U.S. Secret Service personnel were even aware of these credible threats. That's a bizarre. Somebody said that there was credible intelligence. They sent counter snipers and then didn't tell anybody else. So nobody there knew. The Secret Service lead agent told the committee that she received a call telling her that counter snipers would be assigned. Okay, so you're going to get the snipers, but not about the increased threat level. Did they inform you of the reason? They said, yeah, it was credible intel, but they would not discuss it further with her. The lead advance agent told the committee that she instructed the second supervisor to call her supervisor to discuss the credible intel. They didn't tell him. So the lead agent says, he said that there was credible intelligence that he could not speak about and that we were going to get Secret Service counter snipers advanced for that reason. And did he say why he couldn't speak about it? He said because it was information that he wasn't able to pass. Did he say it was classified? He did not use the word classified on the phone, but from my general knowledge, when you say you cannot pass something on the phone, the understanding is it's classified. You can't talk about it on the phone. So then when she asked why she said, we are getting counter snipers, the special agent in charge told the committee that no, he didn't know about this. The first time he became aware that we were going to get counter snipers was in an email. Do you know why? So I guess stepping back, what was the first time you heard about the counter snipers? The special agent in charge of Pittsburgh says, I did not even know a request was made. Okay. Did you know why they were sent? No, I don't. So no one knows. Now here is a snapshot from the preliminary survey about intelligence. Redacted is the intelligence advance for this visit. At this time, no adverse intelligence has been developed concerning this visit, even though there was, which is why they assigned the counter snipers. Why did you write that? That there was no adverse intelligence, even though you knew that there was. You got a phone call from the guy who said he couldn't tell you, but you knew. She says, well, at the time I filled out this document, my understanding was that there was no adverse intelligence to pass on to the group as a whole. So who is this person? This is not all encompassing as to intelligence, whether or not it can be passed. If it's something classified, such as something that was not passed to me to begin with, then that would not be put into writing as well. It would have been passed to those that needed to know in this situation. So you see, it was classified, so she couldn't put it in here. But there actually was a threat. And wouldn't it be useful to tell the Secret Service that there was actually a threat? Why does that need to be classified for the very people whose job it is to protect the protectee? And she just left it out. So it's unclear who else was involved in this, but besides her, who else had knowledge of this credible intelligence? Where did this come from? The special agent in charge in Pittsburgh said that he would expect it to appear in the intelligence section, and it was not in there. Now, the Secret Service officials say that they had no knowledge of any threats that were coming, that were planning the place, and the FBI did not respond to the intelligence request. They say Crooks was not known to the FBI prior. And this other guy, Asif Merchant, remember he got arrested from Pakistan. We read through that indictment here on this channel. But they sent counter snipers based on credible intelligence. And then all of a sudden, there's no credible intelligence. The lead agent received a phone call from a supervisor in the Trump detail who stated there was credible intelligence that he could not speak about. They were going to get Secret Service counter sniper coming soon. Nobody knows what that intelligence was. Could have been a possible drone attack, maybe. The advance agent also did not get any information about a threat in advance of July 13th. Did not know why they were getting counter snipers. So just all left in the dark. Now here's an excerpt of a site agent's counterpart notes after the rally. After the July 13th rally. Threats. Why am I hearing that there were threats to the site on TV? Now, how can the special agent in charge of our FO not know about any threats? And why did they feel that only one part of the SOD was sufficient to curve it instead of the entire package, or to cure it, or to cover it, if it's the entire package? It sounds like the special agent in charge didn't know of anything, quite frankly. Like he wasn't even involved in the planning. At 3:51, Crooks drew a drone near the site. And the counter drone system had technical difficulties because they put an intern on it. Also, requests for counter drone equipment and flight restrictions were also denied because of reasons. The person who was controlling the drone didn't know how to use it. Called and asked for help. Try to figure out how to get this thing working. Called the 188 tech support hotline. 188 drones are us. Then they got a call from a tech support who said, well, it's not working, so why don't you go use an Ethernet cable? Then the system came up at 4:33. With no backup, though. They didn't have any drone detection capabilities, and so anybody could have been flying drones. Now, this person who was operating this device doesn't know how to use it. Question for the drone operator. Okay, Mr. Drone Operator, what is your understanding? Well, I think probably female now because of Kimberly Cheadle. She wants to have a diverse workforce, so we'll be diverse. It's a female. Says, well, what is your understanding of how the CUAS system interacts with the mobile cell networks? Any idea? Well, I don't know how it interacts with it. I mean, I believe it does. The technical aspect of how it communicates to it, I don't know. Okay, but what is your understanding that the equipment has to be? It is your understanding the equipment has to be connected to a mobile network in order for it to be functioning. Is that true? To like I think it needs cellular signal to my knowledge. So if that's what you mean by mobile network, then yeah, that's probably good. The advance agent also admitted it's a he. Guess that's not very diverse at all. That he did not follow the Secret Service protocol when he replaced the Ethernet cable with another Ethernet cable that he found at the Trump campaign equipment. So this guy is just trying to get it to work. He's like freaked out. He's like going through everybody's cord boxes. An Ethernet cable. So then he goes and takes it, but it could have been a Russian Ethernet cable, you know? So the cable that you replaced to connect the systems again, was that a Secret Service property? No, it was Trump campaign radio and video and audio and video personnel. So he's rummaging through the tech guy's bin. Is that standard protocol to use a cable that isn't Secret Service property in this case? He says, no, it's not. Could have been Russian. I don't know. I just wanted to get the system up. It was still inoperable, and he had already flown his drone, and they didn't stop that at all. So here's the timeline of the events. We're very familiar with the timeline. So let's fast forward through the timeline, and let's get down. You can see 609, 611, very detailed timeline, and we've got some more. They're not cooperating with responses. This agitates me to no end. They should just be defunded, literally. You don't get any money until we get our responses. They, despite not obtaining all records, we're still going to interview these people. We've conducted 12 interviews with these people and we're going to be interviewing a bunch more. They've produced 2,800 pages of materials, and we're still going to get into it. On September 11th, we got materials. The FBI has only produced 27 pages of documents to date. The ATF has only given them an informal briefing about their presence. They're still trying to get a transcribed interview. So both of them are just ignoring. These are all of the outstanding requests and information they're trying to get. And so as you can see, there's a lot of material here. And so let's see if there is a concluding paragraph here, and I'll spare you the scroll. But as we close this letter out, let's see. I thought it was a section that was signed by Rand Paul. Let's see if they conclude this for us. Here. Actually, these are just, okay, so the rest of the document is just other things they've already sent. So to date, and then you continue scrolling down, you see these are other prior letters, just they're prior requests. So it's an interim report. There's likely to be more coming out at some point, including more evidence of lies. So Senator Josh Hawley also posted this, saying that a Secret Service whistleblower tells me that they actually have denied Trump resources and manpower for Wisconsin, which contradicts exactly what Ronald Rowe said. So they sent a letter September 24th to the Secret Service. Josh Hawley says, "I'm writing with new whistleblower allegations saying that you, the Secret Service, are effectively forcing Trump to cancel his upcoming event in Wisconsin. Calls into question how much security you're actually providing him. At your recent press conference on September 20th, Ronald, you stated that Trump is receiving the highest level of Secret Service protection. He's getting everything that the same people get, like Kamala got. But according to this whistleblower, the Secret Service recently told Trump that it did not have sufficient assets for Wisconsin. Other whistleblowers say this is highly unusual for a sitting president, and a sitting president would never be denied resources in this way. So if you're saying Trump is getting the same resources as the president, why is he not getting the same resources? If this is happening, I want to know, did the Secret Service ever tell Trump that they cannot secure a rally? Has the Secret Service ever told Biden that the agency could not secure a rally, or Kamala Harris? Josh Hawley is here explaining what is going down.
Yes, in fact, we have a new whistleblower report tonight, Jesse. Whistleblower with direct knowledge of the Trump campaign and the Secret Service and their interactions tell us that the Secret Service recently told the Trump campaign they could not secure a rally for Donald Trump in the state of Wisconsin. Now, this is interesting because it directly contradicts what the Secret Service Director, Rowe, said last week when he said, oh, Trump is getting exactly the same level of protection as Kamala Harris and the sitting president. Really, because Kamala Harris just held a rally in Madison, Wisconsin, and I am told by a whistleblower with direct knowledge of the situation that Secret Service says that Trump should not and could not have a rally in Wisconsin because Secret Service could not protect him and adequately staff it. This calls into question, Jesse, what they're saying about staffing. It calls into question what they're saying about parity between Harris and Trump. And once again, it underscores the fact they're not telling us the whole truth.
Yeah, it is. And they seemingly are trying to dissuade Trump from participating in these events. Now, we got a new update today from Avril Haines, the director of national intelligence, that it's the Iranians now who are out there going to be trying to kill Trump. So I guess Trump should just stay at Mar-a-Lago, or actually just report to prison and satisfy Judge Merchan. It's ridiculous. The Secret Service is in much worse shape than we even suspected based on what we just read there. They can't even take responsibility for anything. It's rule by committee, which explains why people are now dead who've been under their protection. And we're going to continue to cover all this, my friends. And so, my friends, wherever you are, thank you for subscribing to our channel. We're not done yet. We've got a whole nother segment coming up, and it's starting right now. Was the January 6th pipe bomber evidence deleted? Did the Secret Service do something to protect Kamala Harris and manipulate the movement of the VP? Did the FBI obtain the footage at all and then discard it? What happened? We don't know. It's been years. Thomas Massie has been digging at this for a long time. And today, in front of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives, Thomas Massie gets an opportunity to interview and have a conversation with the Office of the Inspector General, this gentleman here, who he's going to ask questions about the pipe bomber on January 6th. Let's get into it.
The federal assets, such as confidential human sources that were present on January 6th at the Capitol.
Let's back up.
To put on the over the past.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I thank the chairman.
Thomas Massie.
Inspector General Horowitz, over the past 3 years, I've questioned FBI Director Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland about the federal assets, such as confidential human sources that were present on January 6th at the Capitol. And they have continuously stonewalled me. We've got no answers whatsoever about this from them. Now, you announced that you were going to do a review of the DOJ response and preparation, mainly preparation, I think, for January 6th. When did you start that review? When did you announce that review?
We announced it in 2021, but we ended up pausing it because of the ongoing criminal cases consistent with how we perform our work. We reinitiated it last year, and I'm in the process of reviewing a draft of the report.
So 3.5 years ago, it was announced that you'd be doing this review, and we still don't have the review, do we?
No, as I said, the reason is we paused the review because of the ongoing criminal work that would, consistent with our practice, we don't interfere with ongoing criminal investigations.
So, but now that you've restarted it, do you have evidence of the number?
And that's interesting because what criminal investigation is he talking about? Because there's still a bunch of January 6th cases that are going on, and a bunch of people are still being arrested from our useless Department of Justice. So he's not talking about those cases. Is he talking about the Trump case? So he was holding off specifically until Donald Trump got charged? Was that the holdup? And now he's restarted it. Is that because the Trump case has already been filed and the indictment is underway? Well, the trial has not happened yet. So what started and stopped the pause? The only other thing you can think of is the committee, the January 6th Select Committee. But they were not a criminal investigative body. They were just a Congress. So what was pausing this guy's investigation, and then what has re-enabled it all of a sudden?
Of confidential human sources that were operating on the Capitol grounds on January 6th.
Our report will include the information in that regard.
Can you tell us today how many there were? Were there more than 100?
I'm not in a position to say that, both because it's in draft form and we have not gone through the classification review. And so I need to be careful on what I say.
So we're 4 years in. The reason to do these reports, I think, is so we don't make this, if there were any mistakes, not to make the same mistakes again. But we are just weeks away from the inauguration. We're 4 years, almost 4 years into this report. When is it going to be released?
It's certainly my hope and expectation, although I don't control this entirely because it has to go through a classification review, but certainly in the next couple of months is my hope.
Okay, so there will still be other January 6 people being arrested a couple months from now. So it's not the January 6 cases. Trump's case will still be going on a couple months from now because the Chutkan January 6 case will not be going to trial. Jack Smith just recently filed a new indictment, superseding indictment, so maybe he'll file another one. So it's still an open, active case. So what is it? What was paused? Why was pausing it for so long? Other than the committee, which wasn't a criminal body at all, right? It was a congressional investigation. They weren't prosecutors. They weren't prosecuting anybody.
Is there any consideration for the election about the release of this report? Would you delay it in order to not release it right before the election?
At this point, given the process that has to play out in terms of classification review and all of that, I'm not making any, I don't have to make any judgment about that. We're still, that still has to go on. Just to give you a sense of it, when I did the Pfizer review,
you're saying it's not even going to be done in time for before the election?
it doesn't, I doubt it would be done in time for the election.
Is it going to be done before the inauguration?
That is certainly my hope. And my
It's your hope.
plan.
We're 4 years into it, and we
It's
know
crazy.
what we do know is you're going to expose that there were confidential human sources at the Capitol. Can you tell us today how many went into the Capitol?
I'll have that information in the report. I'm not able to speak to information in there, both because it's in draft and we get a response from the department and the FBI,
Okay.
but also because I don't know yet what's classified and not classified.
So if they broke the law, if they went into the Capitol, which we pretty much know there were confidential human sources
Yeah.
who went into the Capitol and
absolutely.
right there alongside of everybody else.
And the Proud Boys defense team say that they identified 50 people, which is probably light.
Wouldn't they need to follow DOJ CHS protocols, and do you know if those were followed?
They should follow CHS protocols, and again, we'll include that information in the report.
Do you know how many were reimbursed for travel?
As I sit here, I don't recall the number. But
Shout out to Thomas Massie, man. How many people did the disgusting FBI pay to come here and go inside the Capitol and then cause an insurrection and then create an environment? We've played the video here many times where cops are tapping other cops on the shoulder to say, get out of the way, let the protesters come on in, charging every one of them.
But
Don't recall, or you won't tell us?
Well, and if I did know it, I wouldn't be in a position to tell you because we still have to go through.
We're 4 years
actual
into this.
accuracy
You're supposed to be the organization that goes and gets these answers when the FBI and the DOJ stonewall Congress. But I feel like, we're 4 years into this. We're not even going to get this information you're telling us now before the election, and maybe not even before the next inauguration. How would we make any corrections or without that information? I want to move on to something else. We've got FBI's failed investigation of the January 6th pipe bomb. Are you looking into that at all?
We've had discussion, I know, Congressman, about it, and we have followed up, and I can speak to you about that.
I mean, they keep saying it's an ongoing investigation, but they've got no leads, no suspects. They've lost information. They've lost evidence. They can't find evidence. Secret Service deleted all of its texts on January 6th. Steve D'Antuono, the guy in charge of Washington, D.C. field office, says that the cell phone data that could have been used to find the bomber was corrupted. And now we just I found out from another inspector general, and I want to submit this for the record.
Objection.
Yeah. I asked him, do you have the footage, the video footage? Does the FBI have the video footage of the DNC on January 6th? And he tells me when he asked the FBI for the video footage, they don't even have video footage of the DNC that we know was created on January 6th. It's almost as if they don't want to know. Can you rule out that there were any confidential human sources involved in the whole pipe bomb thing on January 6th?
Just rule it out.
I'd have to go back, Congressman, and refresh myself on what information we've gathered to date on that. I don't know as I sit here.
Okay.
They never know. Christopher Wray, pipe bomb, pipe bomb, pipe bomb, pipe bomb, pipe bomb. Oh, January 6th. Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Well, yeah, I'll look at it and get back to you. Hello. It was one of the prime narratives on that entire day. They were going to blow up the DNC, blow up the RNC. It was going to be this mass terror attack. Kamala Harris was right out there, right outside. Suddenly they can't remember it.
That would be a huge revelation.
But I'm happy to come.
I think we should get that and get it public before the election. I yield back.
A gentleman is back. I'm just struck by the
Good stuff over there from Thomas Massie. Very grateful to have him. And I want to play a little bit of a clip from Tristan Leavitt. Tristan Leavitt is with defendwhistlblowers.com, Empower Oversight. You can find them on X. He was here last week giving us a preview of this testimony, and so we're cheering him on and Jason Foster standing behind him. They're testifying on behalf of the whistleblowers. Here's a little bit of this.
1 year later, the FBI reinstated his security clearance and agreed to restore 27 months of back pay. This amounts to an official admission by the FBI that claims about his disloyalty to the U.S. were false. His clearance should never have been revoked in the first place. And this year, whistleblower after whistleblower from inside the FBI security clearance office has pulled back the curtain on the dysfunction and political bias in the security division. Last week, I sent a 22-page letter to the committee outlining these problems. As that letter details, each and every one of the line-level employees who worked on the review believed Marcus should retain his security clearance. The initial investigator believed it, a second investigator believed it, the first adjudicator believed it, and the second adjudicator believed it. So how did his clearance still get suspended and revoked, contrary to both whistleblower retaliation and clearance adjudication law? High-level officials, at least one of whom is still in the security division, overruled these line-level staff and intimidated employees into doing what they wanted. Division employees lived in fear of a stranger bringing the so-called Kelly cart to their desk to package up their belongings while they were escorted out of the building and fired. And sure enough, of the 4 line-level employees who worked on Marcus's case, 2 of them also suffered reprisal from the FBI for trying to treat him fairly. In fact, the entire leadership of the division's clearance adjudication unit was removed in September 2023, apparently in reprisal for standing up to improper direction from leadership. Empower Oversight is now representing 3 current or former Security Division employees retaliated against by their managers. This summer, we disclosed to the public that the Security Division forced FBI employees to rat out their coworkers if they'd ever heard them, quote, vocalize support for President Trump or, quote, vocalize objection to the COVID-19 vaccination.
And let's listen to one of those whistleblowers. So this is who they're representing. This is Mr. Allen, and he's explaining what he's gone through.
I weaponized the security clearance process to retaliate against me for protected whistleblower activity. In late 2021, I raised concerns about the FBI director's testimony about the January 6th Capitol riot, not out of political motivation, but out of a duty to truth and integrity. This act, which I believe to be in the spirit of transparency and accountability, led to unexpected and severe consequences. Almost exactly 3 years ago today, I forwarded news articles to my superiors and others within the FBI about January 6th. It was literally one of my job duties to keep my colleagues informed about open source intelligence related to their cases. As a result of simply doing my job, the FBI accused me of promoting conspiratorial views and unreliable information. The FBI questioned my allegiance to the United States, suspended my security clearance, suspended my pay, and refused to allow me to obtain outside employment or even accept charity. This once storied institution, whose initials ironically stand for fidelity, bravery, and integrity, was punishing me for bravely challenging their integrity while they questioned my fidelity. The suspension ultimately lasted for 27 months. During that time, the FBI held my family and me in indefinite limbo, awaiting a final decision. Determined to not lose our home, my wife and I took early withdrawals from our retirement accounts to survive. It became clear that the FBI, with endless resources, the American people's money, was trying to destroy me financially so that I would give up. This is a fear of countless potential whistleblowers who see the personal cost of integrity. There are no words strong enough to describe the impact the FBI's lies about me have had on me and my family. The stress has taken a toll on our health, and our children have suffered, traumatized by the thought of our door getting kicked in or dad not coming home. The battle for truth and justice will cost you, but the arduous good is worth it. The FBI's restoration of my clearance earlier this year, thanks to the efforts of Empower Oversight and the American Center for Law and Justice, was absolute vindication. It's a point I would not have reached without the prior help of Bigler-Ranish and Judicial Watch. However, the experience is also a stark reminder of the system's flaws. It took legal battles, public scrutiny, and patience over 3 long years. No other FBI whistleblower has ever had his clearance restored as I did. Garrett O'Boyle and his family are still suffering in the same limbo we were, with no access to due process and no limit on the FBI's ability to delay and avoid independent accountability. How many other whistleblowers remain silent, fearing the same ordeal my family and Garrett's family faced, with little hope of vindication at the end? Despite the stress and uncertainty, I've never once regretted standing up for truth. In fact, I'm grateful for the experience. Indeed, my family and I persevered due to our strength and faith, God's grace, and the sacraments. If you do not worship God, then you will worship something else. You can either serve God or you can serve mammon, but you can't serve both. This has been a purification. While we lost material items, we gained more important things. We've stored up for ourselves treasures in heaven. What we have gained spiritually has far outweighed what was lost materially. John Adams noted that the framework of our country was built for a moral and religious people, and unfit for the governance of any other. James Madison notes the duty to honor God is precedent, both in order of time and degree of obligation, to the claims of civil society. Before any man can be considered as a member of civil society, he must be considered as a subject of the governor of the universe. I recently learned about comments made by Mr. Jeffrey Veltri suggesting I was delusional for believing in and seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit. Mr. Veltri currently serves as special agent in charge of the Miami field office, but at the time he was an executive at Security Division overseeing security clearance decisions. To Mr. Veltri, I say you can insult me, but you should not mock God. It is an insult to the infinite dignity of God, who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and it is bad for the health of your soul. This isn't about me, it's bigger. I am hopeful that the truth of what happened will be fully revealed and deter the FBI from doing the same injustice to others. Though the path may be difficult, I must plead with other employees who have witnessed wrongdoing that they find the courage to speak up. You're not alone, nor will you ever be. Psalm 139 says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence?" I've been blessed to be supported by God's sanctifying grace, the blessed sacrament, men and women of goodwill, other whistleblowers, the charity of the American people, prayers and great attorneys along the way, like Tristan and Jason of Empower Oversight.
Shout out, defendwhistlblowers.com to support
please do
those
not
guys.
be silenced by the FBI's mistreatment. We are all here to support you if you choose to come forward. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Equally important is the awareness and involvement of the American people. This is your country. While I feel vindicated now in getting back my security clearance, it is sad that in the country for which I fought as a Marine, the FBI was allowed to lie about my loyalty to the United States for 3 years. Unless there is accountability, it will keep happening to others. Better oversight and changes to security clearance laws are key to stopping the abuses suffered by whistleblowers like me. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Peace and all good.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. God bless you. Amen to that entire statement. And you can see that guy has been through the ringer there. And he's exactly right about this, my friends. We are in the middle of a spiritual battle, and we're glad to have him on our side with his nice plea to other whistleblowers to stand up and be heard. Now, we'll carry on here and listen to what the rest of the testimony sounded like with a little excerpt here from Jim Jordan.
Terrorism Task Force, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the very next day I find to be interesting, on September 30th, 2021, the next day, just so happened your 5-year reauthorization for your security clearance came due, and they said, no problem. Mr. Allen should keep his security clearance. After all, he's had it for 20 years, right? Yep. That happened the next day.
Correct, sir.
Decorated Marine veteran, employee of the year at the Charlotte field office, had a security clearance for 20 years. They reauthorized your security clearance. Something else happened that next day. Your email got forwarded to the security division and to Mr. Veltri, is that right?
That's correct.
And then 19 days later, Mr. Veltri opened an investigation into your security clearance status.
And that's the same guy who's in charge of the Trump assassination investigation with Ryan Ruth in Florida.
I get all those facts right, Mr. Leavitt? Is that what happened with Marcus in those 2 days? And then 19 days later?
Yes, except for from what we can tell, Veltri directed that day that it be opened. It's just that the underlings under him didn't carry that out until 19 days later.
Yeah. And he directed, they look into a guy, decorated Marine veteran, held a security clearance for 20. They look into him because Mr. Allen said there's a chance the FBI leadership hasn't been square with us, right?
That's correct.
And he cited a New York Times article. They thought the same thing. And oh, by the way, there's the history that we all know about. FBI spied on the president's campaign, lied to the FISA court, investigated parents at school board meetings, said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. So we got all that history, and he gets investigated for that because he simply questioned the leadership, went through the appropriate channels. Mr. Horowitz, did Mr. Veltri and the people at the Security Division follow the standard process?
They did not.
They did not.
Oh.
In fact, isn't it true that, Mr. Leavitt, isn't it true that some of the people, I think you cited 4 of them in your statement, 4 people, the initial investigator, the second investigator, the first adjudicator, and another adjudicator, all got reassigned. They all agreed that Mr. Allen should keep his security clearance. This investigation shouldn't have happened, and they get reassigned or something happens to them.
4 of them all did not recommend that his clearance be, that there be a negative action on it. 2 of them were reassigned.
2 were reassigned. Some of them are whistleblowers now, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Man, if that's not political, I don't know what is. Oh, and they didn't stop there. They piled on. They also said, if Mr. Allen, he questioned whether he should get the vaccine or not. They came after him for that. Is that right, Mr. Leavitt?
Yes.
And then they went after his faith. Direct attack on the First Amendment. because he's a Christian, because he's a Catholic, because he takes his faith seriously, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We got to take his security clearance away from him, even though he served our country, decorated
Arrest him right
Marine,
now.
and held a security clearance for 20 years. That sure looks political to me, Inspector General Horowitz. Does it look political to you?
Well, Congressman, as I said earlier, we've seen issues with the FBI and how it's treated whistleblowers, frankly, across the spectrum. And I agree with you, it's very concerning.
Eliminate the FBI.
That would be done
yeah,
here.
it's very
we know
concerning.
they're political because while
Yeah,
all this
it
is
is.
going on, they used the questionnaire. Isn't that right, Mr. Leavitt? Isn't that right? They used this questionnaire to people they wanted to snitch on folks like Marcus Allen. They gave him a questionnaire.
Those were used in the case of a handful of employees, and I know that Mr. Horowitz's office is looking at that. I think it's important to note that the questionnaire wasn't the only thing, right? That these questions were asked
that.
across
I'm talking
the board.
about that the way they piled on to go after
Yeah.
Mr. Allen and keep his security clearance and keep his pay from him for 27 months. And they did the same thing to Garrett O'Boyle. And what that has meant, as you indicated in your testimony, what that has meant to his family and Mr. O'Boyle's family. And this questionnaire said, did anyone ever vocalize support for President Trump? All right, you're allowed to say things about the President of the United States when you work in the FBI, aren't you, Mr. Horowitz?
No.
You're allowed to say you support a president. You're allowed to say that in the FBI.
Absolutely, those questions are highly inappropriate.
And you're allowed to decide what kind of health decisions you're going to make with your own body, right?
No,
That-
not in
those
Christopher
shouldn't be
Wray's
grounds for
FBI.
saying you're somehow disloyal to the country, but that's what they did. Highly inappropriate questions being asked of witnesses during security clearance investigations. That's your testimony, right, Mr. Horowitz?
That's correct.
And he got reinstated just recently. Marcus Allen you got reinstated, right, Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Why haven't they given you your money?
I am not aware why it's taking them
'Cause
4
they're
months
pieces of work,
to
that's why.
cut a check for all the back pay. I have no idea why it's taking that long.
They put you through pure hell for 27 months, falsely accused you. They go through the process. 4 people get reassigned because they agree with you, but the politics of Mr. Beltry, who, oh, by the way, as Mr. Leavitt pointed out, is now running the second assassination investigation on President Trump in Miami. I find that just astonishing.
Wild.
And they won't pay you.
Right, we're still waiting for the payout.
When was the final agreement? When was the final settlement with the FBI? What was the date, Mr. Leavitt?
June 1st.
Well, they've had time. Doesn't take that long to write a check, for goodness sake. So he's still in waiting. That's how our FBI treats a good man who has served our country for 20 plus years. It's ridiculous. And yet the Democrats say there's no weaponization. You got to be kidding me. My time has expired. I now recognize the gentlelady from California.
Okay, so let's go to a Democrat who is now going to explain what they think of what's happening here. And you know, this is Miss Plaskett. All right, so get ready for this one. It's a good one. And you're gonna have there's a content warning here. There's a content warning, so just get ready for it.
Thank you and good morning to everyone here.
Good morning,
at
Stacey.
This select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government.
Yeah, good to see you.
In 46 days, Americans will go to the polls for one of the most consequential elections of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Americans will decide the composition of Congress as well as the next president of the United States.
Yes.
And then prayerfully, this select committee will be over.
What?
Because the purpose of this committee will no longer be necessary.
Because they'll control
What was
everything.
that purpose? Well, it's what I said almost 2 years ago. To test out conspiracy theories, prop up those stories that the far right wishes to push into the American psyche, and to lay the groundwork for a dictatorial government led by Donald Trump.
You people are prosecuting him. Hello, 234 years of American precedent, all shattered. You're saying that no other president has ever done anything criminal at all? What about Obama blowing up American citizens with drone strikes without due process of law? Many things that we could talk about. But Trump is a dictator? Okay, so we're not going to listen to the whole 5 minutes of her, but here's just a little bit more. Get ready.
Immediately, you'll hear moans of disapproval, and X, formerly called Twitter, is going to call me a racist. They're going to call me a disrespectful black bitch because I have said words against the chairman, my white male counterpart on this committee. I'm a tool of the woke agenda. I've heard it. I've read it all.
Hey, nobody called you that, okay? You called yourself that. Psychopath.
As well as so many of my colleagues that are here. More moderate individuals will say I'm being an alarmist and that there's no way America becomes a dictatorship. We're just pointing out how the federal government comes after conservatives. But in the 2 years that we've been doing this Groundhog Day over and over and over again, there has been no evidence to show that the federal government, and in particular the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, or the Department of Justice has been wholly weaponized against the right.
Okay. They're just censoring right stories. They're prosecuting right protesters. They're prosecuting Donald Trump. Why did they raid Trump's residence and they didn't raid Hillary Clinton's residence or Joe Biden's residence over their classified documents problem? Because it was obstruction? Okay. That's what Hillary did. She deleted stuff with BleachBit and they destroyed phones with hammers. Okay. So talk about obstruction. Now here's Matt Gaetz. He's going to come and explain more for us about what's happening
in prison. And I try to be a little open-minded when I hear a provocative argument. And I just sort of wonder, when would I be in favor of taxpayer-funded sex change operations for the illegal aliens? And maybe if it was mandatory. You know, maybe if it wasn't optional, but mandatory, it would be a pretty substantial deterrent at the border. But to the matter at hand.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. We should just embrace liberal ideas. Totally. 100% at the border. You want to come into our country, you get a sex change operation, and then you can come in. Then nobody will come, I think. Can that backfire? Is that going to backfire? Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to think that one out. Got to think about the demographics and the how many people, it's like a conversion rate. How many people will ultimately convert? I don't know.
Mr. Allen, it's good to see you again. You came last year and you told us about these terrible things the Department of Justice was doing to you. And you've testified today, you still don't think the Department of Justice has treated whistleblowers like yourself and others fairly. Is that your testimony?
That's correct. The treatment is unfair.
Do you agree with that assessment, Mr. Horowitz?
You know, as I said in my testimony, Congressman, I think putting someone like Mr. Allen on unpaid leave for 2+ years is unfair while you're trying to adjudicate.
Yeah, no, I get that.
There needs to be a process here that
well,
happens promptly.
the process was to punish these people and to make an example of them.
Yeah.
That's obvious to
Our
everyone.
own government.
They saw
For blowing the
improper
whistle.
actions at
Yep.
the FBI and DOJ. They blew the whistle on it, and then the process was the punishment, and it was the point. I think that's how Mr. Allen feels. Is it?
Correct. The process in this instance definitely felt like the punishment.
Yeah. So they've done it to you. They've done it to others. Mr. Horowitz says it shouldn't have been done. And so now I want to be a little reflective about this with Congress. Mr. Allen, you've seen since you have given us this testimony, us continue to pass continuing resolutions that put no consequence on the DOJ or the FBI for what they've done to you and your colleagues. Do you think Congress has appropriately protected whistleblowers?
I do not, Congressman, and I think the policy recommendations can be put forward that there can be bipartisan support for to protect whistleblowers going forward in the future.
Absolutely. I mean this in no way as a partisan critique. Matter of fact, it's a bipartisan critique that we all own. Because we see the evidence that you get mistreated. We hear from the experts like Mr. Horowitz that this is totally off book. It's obvious to anyone with a brain they're doing it to hurt you and to make an example out of you. And what do? We just sign the check and we just send it over. You know what we should put in any continuing resolution? That until you get paid and until the rest of the whistleblowers get their back pay, maybe the FBI director doesn't get his paycheck. Maybe the attorney general shouldn't get his paycheck. Maybe the FBI director shouldn't get the use of the private jet that he likes to fly around the country on so much. You know, they enjoy all of the accoutrements of their position, and you end up screwed. And we're okay with it, apparently. Any member who votes for these continuing resolutions is voting to perpetuate the punishment that has been instituted on the whistleblowers. And while we want to talk about the weaponization of the Justice Department, rightfully so, we write the check for it, and we underwrite the debt for it. And it is sickening to me. Mr. Horowitz, I got a few questions for you since we got you here. Now, the CIGI is the Council of Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, right?
That's right.
And you're the past chair?
I was the chair from 2015 through 2020.
Does it have any binding legal authority?
In terms of, I mean, it was created by Congress as an agency.
Yeah, but does it have like legal authority to issue subpoenas that it can compel?
It has not been given subpoena authority.
Okay, so what I wonder is where this group, SIGI, I'll just call it the Integrity Committee, like, what happens when they start interfering in the work of IGs to expose corruption? Who adjudicates that?
So Congress actually created the Integrity Committee again back in 2008, gave it its authorities. The Integrity Committee puts forth a set of policies and procedures. It's required to provide them to Congress. That's the mechanism.
Yeah, but in a state of conflict, right, where you got an IG working to expose corruption, and then you've got the SIGI hassling the IG, who resolves that?
Well,
because I mean, nobody in the SIGI is not, the head of it's not like confirmed by the Senate, but IGs are confirmed by the Senate.
yeah, and it probably in part depends on, there are two types of IGs. There's presidentially nominated Senate confirmed IGs, there's then agency IGs. For presidentially nominated Senate confirmed IGs, ultimately it's up to the president to decide what he wants, because the report goes to the president.
And the presidential power, not to get into a constitutional, a regression here, but the presidential power is vested in the IG, not in this administrative committee, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Okay, so the question is going to be, what is the pressure on the IG to sanitize the report on January 6th when it ultimately drops? So some nice questioning there from everybody except Stacey Plaskett, who is calling herself very inappropriate names in her own mind for whatever reason. But we're happy to see Congress is hearing from the whistleblowers. And so shout out to our friends at Empower Oversight, to Mr. Allen and defendwhistlblowers.com. We need more of our whistleblowers to speak out and expose all this corruption. And so we're going to continue to cover that stuff here. We hope you join us as we do. Thank you so much for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you so much for sharing the show with a friend or family member. Really the only way we get outside of the YouTube bubble. And so we're thankful for that. We'll look forward to seeing you and your friends back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Now let's see what you say about all of this. We covered some good ground. If you're just joining us and you missed the first segment, we went through a bunch of this report, quite a bit of it, 134 pages, and we redlined it up, all detailing the inside problems in Butler in Pennsylvania. And so we marked the heck out of this thing. So if you missed that, be sure to check that out. We also talked about Jim Jordan demanding answers on why they released the manifesto that's calling for Trump to be executed with a $150,000 bounty. Hawley is saying they're actually lying. Trump is not getting the same protection as other people. And of course, we went through this nice hearing where Thomas Massie is explaining to us that there is, in fact, no evidence that has been preserved from the FBI, and the Office of the Inspector General is confirming that as well. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about all of this and more. Of course, we're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com as soon as we're done here to hang out a little bit. Membos who join us, we do members-only streams in the morning. We talk about a bunch of other stuff that we can't get to here. And so if you'd like to join us for a members-only stream, we'd love to have you. We're talking about some fun stuff, 2024 election stuff, Middle East stuff, all sorts of stuff that we can't get to. So come and join us. But let's see who is here on the day. We've got Leonard. What's up, Leonard? Oh, yeah, this one came in. Hey, what's going on? Okay, so Leonard sent this one this morning. Leonard says, the corrupt media never recognizes the undeniable courage of Donald J. Trump. That's for sure. Yeah, they definitely do not want that even in the conversation, because that would make Trump look good. And let's see what else is here. Where did these go? Oh, yes. Hey, what's up, Donut? Have a nice day. Hello, Hump Day. Have a nice day. Wednesday. What a nice little Snoopy there. We like Snoopy. Hey, Shaina says, give Robert a thumbs up while thinking about it. Thank you, Shaina, for the reminder. We've got this one from Kelly Kivette. What's up, Kelly? Became a supporter. Grab the members only stream from this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning on our members only morning stream. Sheila the Pooh, a million hugs to you. Bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Sheila. Bringing in That's Hot Air, Aubin Ann, Melissa Millwood, Salty C, and Lana coming in, and Sheila welcoming them aboard, saying, welcome new membos. Hit that like button and be sure to share the show. Thank you, Sheila, for that, for bringing in new membos. Hey, spectacularly incarnated. That's a great way to think about it. It's true. Better than being, mediocrely incarnated, I guess. Welcome as the newest supporter. Great to have you. We've got this one from MAGA Hat Stays. Says undercover journalist James O'Keefe goes to the front lines of the migrant industrial complex using hidden cameras. O'Keefe reveals the shocking border crisis. Line in the Sand is the new movie premiering October 10th exclusively on the Tucker Carlson network. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So James O'Keefe is teaming up with Tucker. That's pretty fun. That's cool. Shout out to James and Tucker. That's awesome. Hope Arising says, hey, thanks for all the great connections made here. Much love interviewing Eddie Block tonight on my channel. Ooh. Hope everyone can join. It must be Hope Arising. Is that the name of your channel, Hope Arising? Eddie Block, you know Eddie Block. We've talked to Eddie Block. And Eddie is amazing. So that's awesome. It's going to be a great stream. Hope Arising. Go check it out, my friends. Have a great stream. We've got Object Class Keeter says, disband all the Secret Service leadership and start anew. I think they're going to have to do that. I mean, did you hear what they were doing, like their meetings? Could you imagine starting and running a meeting at the Secret Service? Ugh. I think I'd have to assassinate myself, Ollie, what's up? Just joking. Patty H., Krishan Paul, Philip Smith, Derelick, and Augustus Tiberius gifted membos courtesy of Ollie in the house. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in 5 new membos. What's up? Shane Souza says, Ollie said I get one free from Shane. 4 months as a membo, Shane. Almost halfway to a baby. We've got Poppy. What's up? Welcome, Poppy, as a membo. Poppy's been a membo for a while and is bringing in 10 more membos. Thank you, Poppy. Hal's Hutch is here. Donna Ralph, Sherry J, Kevin Haraz coming in. Saffon, Nicole Bama Princess. What's up? Lou Landry, Jen Lynn, LMC. That guy's back. And CGI Joe all shouting out Poppy gifting 10 new membos in the house. Poppy, thanks for doing that. And welcome aboard, new membo friends. Hey, Knox Bierman is over on Locals, says, happy Wednesday, all. Fun fact on the new federal charges against Ruth, which I haven't looked at yet. It freezes the independent Florida investigation. Here's a good take by Jeff Childers, the fellow attorney. So the feds have frozen Ron, basically, is what you're saying. I'll have to look that one up. Coffeeandcovid.com. That looks like a fun one. All right, what's up? Sheila Poo says, this was a choreographed and planned failure. Talking about J6. Or I guess it could have been J6 and the pipe bomber, or it could have been this Trump assassination attempt. Either way, you're right, Sheila. Hey, 5 more membos coming in from Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. Rafael Valenzuela's here. We got G. Ricketson joining. Aha is here. Not your average golden potato. No, sir. Welcome. And Rusty Banks gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. What's up? Knox is also sharing this. Oh, yeah. Apparently, I didn't cover that story. But yeah, did we skip that? Yeah. Secret Service agent also apparently placed on leave. Yeah, I think we read too much of that first motion. I totally forgot about this, or the first report. Yeah, he forced himself on the woman and groped her in the hotel room after eating a meal and drinking alcohol. So they're getting Trump shot in the head, and they're trying to Bergdorf Kamala's Bergdorfs. It's a bad situation. Thank you for that, Knox, for flagging that one for us. And let's see what else we've got. Thank you, Knox. We have some more from this old guy. Says, the U.S. Secret Service planning by committee results in planning anonymity, which is exactly what they were aiming for. Now, if we only knew who the hell was on the committee. Yeah, it seems like they know their names. Roughly. They definitely interviewed a bunch of people, and they're all pointing their fingers at each other. I wonder how extensive the spider web goes. But you're right. If everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible, which is exactly what they want. Hey, the Right Honorable, I told you so. The Right Honorable, I told you so. 2 months as a membo says, hey, huge thanks to whoever gifted me 2 straight membos back to back. It happens all the time. I've seen people string together multiple months of free membos. How many people, what's the longest length of free membos that you've gotten? Has anybody beaten 2 months? I think so. I think I've seen multiple months. So if you just hang out in the chat, you may 14 months. What? That's incredible. So yeah, I mean, you can really add them up. The old bag says 14 months, 14 free membos, 9 months from Palmy No. I got like a year or something, says Holy F, 16 months. That's amazing. 14 months. That's amazing. So you've been here for 14 months for free as a membo because of the membo gifts. How is that amazing? That's amazing. That's amazing. So how fun is that? Cool. That's incredible. 7 months on gifted membos from Lisa. 6 years, says Sketch Therapy. Sketch was getting free membos before we even started the show. It's amazing. Incredible. Time traveler. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. Yeah, that's funny. That's amazing. I'm really grateful for it. We have a lot of fun. We love our membos. We really try to deliver for our membos. We do a bunch of stuff for our membos, extra streams and stuff like that. Like I've been a part of membo communities, you know, where they're like, oh, hey, everyone. Thanks for your support. I'm like, happy to be supporting you, right? Because it's not really about that in many ways. Like, just, you want to support the people you want to support. But we really try to deliver because I don't want people to feel like we're not doing that. And we have a lot of fun with our membos, so come join. Hey, what's up? Milo Phone Bill says, we drew a map and decided on a Pac-Man shaped security zone. Yeah, that sounds like a fun one. Kind of like pin the tail on the donkey. All of the Secret Service agents got drunk, started groping Kamala staffers, and then created the diagram. That sounds about right. Philip Coggins says, I seriously believe we were a head turn and a quarter inch away from a very civil conflict. Yeah, Philip, you're totally right, dude. I mean, we streamed it that night and we came online. It's like a whole timeline change, right? The whole world was, I remember the energy that day, how close we came. I'm really glad that did not happen. Really, really glad. What's up? Hey, this one came in from the Right Honorable I Told You So. 5 more membos coming in. Lenny Malley's here. Dale Davis. Betty's in the house. Angry Viking Veteran and James Hatfield. What's up, James? Welcome. Everybody, welcome aboard, courtesy of the Right Honorable I Told You So, which sounds like a lot of judges I used to appear in front of. Philip Coggin says, we need to take a look at past rallies of Trump to see if they were purposely leaving holes like this in the hopes for someone to show up. Yeah. And I think even the second appearance of this, right, where Trump almost got shot again, is more indication that there is a systemic problem. Like, Trump was one hole away from being shot at again. So there is a much bigger problem. There's a systemic problem. And when you have something like that, you got to identify with the root cause. And I don't think it's just sheer incompetence at this point. Although they're incompetent, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Chubby says, now we know why the USPS is expecting delays on Election Day. The Secret Service is tying up their resources with their protection communications. It all makes sense now. Yeah, they're sending their text messages via first-class mail, which is very expensive these days. Hey, Sheila Pooh, what's going on? More membos from Sheila? Look who's here. Philip Coggins. We've got LW, Brenda Abner, Sassy Tech, Mr. E, gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh, bringing in so many membos. We love you, Sheila. Thanks for that. Patriot Rob says, is Cheadle still being called in for questioning, or is she just resigned and she's done? Yeah, I don't know if I think she testified in front of Congress. Remember, she came in, had her little talk, then resigned and called it a day. Probably in Belize with Nathan Wade, who they can't serve. Did you see that story? They can't find Nathan Wade to give him the congressional subpoena because he's on a cruise. Sheila Pooh says, it is insane. This is the agency trusted with the protection of our leaders, and he doesn't know their A from their elbow in the ground. It's true. It's pretty bad. And there's been many other reports. We saw that other Secret Service agent shot himself the other day. The other one was breastfeeding in the protective tent. This one's groping Kamala staffers. It's not good. Patriot Rob says, what if Congress can't fire the director? They should be allowed to fire the underlings. Something. They should be able to do something. They do. They have the constitutional power to defund them, but they never do it because they're spineless. Thank you, Patriot Rob. What's up, Philip Coggins? 2 months as a membo. Says Harris was the bomber, the J6 bomber. Illuminati confirmed. I thought it was either her or Liz Cheney. It was probably Kamala or Liz Cheney, one of the two. Chubby says, okay, so basically they paused the review because they didn't want to give any of the J6 defendants actual evidence that they could use as a defense. Right, and if this report comes out and it exonerates Trump, and which it will not, this report will be also rigged, and I do not believe it will be true, but there will be some truth in it, and we'll see that there were major problems on January 6th, which is why they don't want it to come out before the election, clearly. John Libby says, ACLJ this morning confirmed that the whistleblower's back pay still has not been released. Yeah, and we heard him say that, right, John? He said today during his testimony. They approved it. He's supposed to get it back. Don't know why it takes so long for them to cut a check. Maybe he should go over to Ukraine and he'll get his money quickly. Sheila Poo says, she makes me throw up every time I hear her. That could apply to many, many people on the show. Hey, Sheila Poo, 10 membos coming in from Sheila. Sheila, you rock. Look at this. We've got Felicia Kimbler, Mayor of Bastville. Welcome. Beaver Gladiator, Jaira Ketsu, Al B. We got Michael Jones, Toenail Herbin, Greg Erickson, Lydia, and Wiz, gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. We got Zulu is bringing in membos. Thank you, Zulu, for bringing in new membos and modding the fort down for us. We got Tree Climbers coming in, courtesy of Zulu. Daisy Gurr Williams, David Hughes, Will Wallace, Aging Cynic, David Stebbins, Magic Stick is here, Andrea Alvarez, Desh, and Michael Mathis, gifted membos, courtesy of Zulu, who's been around for the ages. Thank you, Zulu. Welcome aboard. 10 new friends, courtesy of Zulu. Hey, Melanie says, I just wanted to say President Trump is definitely going to win on November 5th. You're right about that, Melanie. You're right about that. And we're going to be excited to be there covering it together. Thao, what's up? Says, I need help contacting the Trump Force 47 team. I joined to phone bank, but their training links are dead and there's no way to volunteer. Blocked communications to the volunteer. Well, that's not good. So if you're out there on Trump Force 47 team, check your links. Thao needs some help. I wonder if you can reach out to somebody on X or somebody who works over there. Can you maybe hop on there and DM somebody or see what's going on? Not sure what that's all about, but hopefully you can get out there and get involved. Tree Climber, what's up? Is bringing in 5 more membos. Thank you, Tree Climber. This is amazing. Elena, a.k.a. Nellie's here. Anything Goes is coming in. Shelby's here. Kay, welcome. And Rose Belitzia in the house, courtesy of Tree Climber, bringing in 5 new membos. Kitchen Mortician has been here for 11 months. And look at this. All mine have been gifted. 11 months as a membo. All gifts. That's awesome. I'm really happy to see that. Thank you, Kitchen, for being here for 11 months. And here, 5 months as a membo. AB says, thanks for the membership. Love your channel. Thank you, AB. Glad to have you. Glad to see you guys, get to know everybody. We have a lot of fun. Zulu, what's up? Says, I have accumulated 32 months of free membos, allegedly. I don't know if that's exactly true, but Zulu, 32 months. You've been here a long time, man, since the beginning, and we're grateful for that. Allegedly. Good to have you, Zulu. Thanks for that, and thanks for the nice dono. And Beth says, member for 6 months, 2/3 of the way to a baby. Says, are you ever in a bad mood, Rob? Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. All the time. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'll tell you this. Being here with you elevates me out of a bad mood. It's true. So even when I sit down here and I'm like, whatever's going on in the day, like I get agitated by this crap too. Don't get me wrong. We go through this stuff. It's like, oh, my country, what's happening? But we recognize that we're in it together, and I think freedom will prevail. And so as long as we are in the perseverance of truth, we're acting honorable, we're abiding by the 4 agreements, these basic concepts, we can have some fun and have some levity. And I think that we share a positive energy together. So I'm really grateful for that. I think it's a symbiotic thing that happens here when we do these streams together. So we can change our energetic states together. So that's part of what's happening here. But yeah, I get in a bad mood all the time, man. All the time. Cranky, whatever it is. You know how it is. And then you have to tell yourself to stop being a little baby, change your diaper, and get back to work. Get over it, Rob. What's up? Former says, please don't forget that anyone with conservative leaning was purged, and that opened up the door. The FBI and the Secret Service and DHS are beyond saving. They should be disbanded and reconstituted. It's a great comment. I agree completely. All of them. Defund them. Bring in Elon and doge them out of existence. That's going to be a good thing when that happens. What's going on? Let's see what's happening on X. Here's this one. Hey, this is a real photo from the FBI, from the report. This is a screenshot when they were looking for the pipe bomb video. This is what happened. This is a real action shot. He had popcorn and he was just hitting delete. Thank you, Palmino. That's our meme smith. Here's a Secret Service planning session. Have you seen this one from Palmino? Secret Service planning session. It's the Three Stooges, and they can't math. Even I know that one. Golly. Thank you, Paul. What's up, B. Torn? Talking about Goldman bringing up the laptop and Rudy. We've got James Peppers over there saying if they would have put a sniper on that roof, if a local sniper was giving actual Secret Service snipers pointers, that might make them look bad. Yeah, Fred Petamonte says, I would love to hear what Eric Prince from Blackwater says. Mr. Prince, what could you do with $3 billion per year? You have the best security of all time. What's up, Brandy Coffee says, let us pray. Amen to that. Ben Tyndall, good to see you. Captain Smiley says, they're looking into it. What's up, Alora? What's up? We got some good X friends. It's nice to see everybody over on X. And of course, it's fun to follow each other, fellow watchers out there on X. And you can follow us as well at Rob Govea, ESQ, if you are on X. We post a lot of our same content over there, and we'd love to see you there. But we are going to leave it there. We are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Patriot Rob says, if Congress can't fire the directors of those three-letter agencies, they should be allowed to fire the employees, which would basically be a separation of powers problem, ultimately. But defunding them is within their powers because that is an articulated, delineated power in the Constitution. That's the real legal answer to that. Rosie Posey says, there goes a Democrat being a Democrat, Miss Plaskett proudly displaying her narcissism. And did you notice she became the victim rather than Mr. Allen? Yeah, we're there to investigate this guy who's had his total life destroyed. And she's like, well, somebody's going to post a mean thing about me on X. That's her big priority on the day, which is about what you'd expect. But, my friends, it has been a heck of a stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for liking this video on your way out. Thanks for sharing it with a friend or family member, somebody that you know, and inviting them over to join us. It's better when we do it together. So thanks for doing that. We are going to come back here tomorrow. Before we wrap it up, we want to say thanks to our mods and our meme smiths. We have the best mods and meme smiths. John McGarvey, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B. We have K-Bean in the house. I see Playing Hookies in the chat. We got Zulus over there and many more. And we're grateful for the best mods in the whole world. And so, my friends, we are going to leave it there. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We would love to see you over there. But if not, we are going to be back here tomorrow to get into it all again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.